Good morning and welcome to In the News with myself, Savvy Sapphire. Welcome to a new week, Monday, the 13th of September. I bring you in the news each week via StreamYard into your YouTube or into LinkedIn. I hope you enjoyed this week's news that I have picked out for you. If you have any comments or would like to share your views, please feel free to send a message. I look forward to hearing from you. So where do we start today? We're starting on the government. They're targeting second homes, are preparing to triple whammy blow. So what does that mean? Media reports over the weekend, it was last weekend, suggest that the government is preparing to triple whammy three measures which may reduce the number of viability for second homes. Firstly, it is reported that the Housing Secretary, Robert Jenkins, wants to give councils powers to stop new homes being sold as holiday properties. Secondly, wants planning reforms to be obliged developers to build more starter homes and fewer of a type of appeal to non-local purchasers. Thirdly, additional planning changes may make second home owners require planning consent before their properties for holiday or short lets. Until now, the council has had to hold off and with a reformed on the local plans. Specifically, new builds must be sold only to local and only used as principal properties. Famously, this was pioneered by the Cornish resort St Ives, which voted for such a policy in 2016. A legal challenge by a developer failed, but since then, local agents have suggested that holiday homes buyers have concentrated on an older property where there's no restriction. In 2019, assessments by the London School of Economics warned that the ban may have backfired, with developers building elsewhere and locals facing competition from buyers seeking existing properties for second homes. The LSE reports warned any policy that succeeds in keeping second homes investors away will hurt the local economy. What do you think about that? Do you think if you can't get a second home, it will affect the economy? Please let me know. The Daily Mail says no final decision has been made by the cabinet, and thoughts are open to proposals that would require people to get planning permission for change of use before they could actually let out their property as a holiday home. Now, how many of my listeners have extra homes as holiday homes in the UK or anywhere else? Do you find that these restrictions that might come into play are nonsense? Do you feel that you should be able to buy a second home if you wish? And do you feel that it will hurt the economy? Please share your views. I'd love to hear. And if you're on replay, please type in hashtag replay and I'll definitely answer your questions. In Avenues Agency, new forecasting model says house prices to soar in 2031. A new forecasting model from a consumer website is predicting that house prices will rise on an average of 30% in the next decade and more in London. Compare the Market says the average price of homes in the UK will hit 323,718 by 2031. And in London, there will be an above average of 33% to 619,568. The average age of first-time buyers is currently 35 years old. But in 2031, buyers might have to wait an extra 2 years to jump onto the property ladder, averaging age at 37. The rest of England will see an average age increase of 1.6 years, jumping to almost 35. The website has analysed government data from 1992 to 2020 and run through a forecasting model. Looking ahead at 2040, the model suggests Greater London house prices will be 63% more than today across the whole of UK. That figure will be 58%. UK and London price forecasts. I'm going to read a few of these, and if I look at it from 2021, the price is 248.46 UK. Greater London is 465,549. In 2024, this jumps up to 271,062 to 511,755. 2028, 301, 151, and compared to Greater London of 573.63. So you can see that these prices are going up exuberant over the next coming years. It's forecasted. What do you think about the house prices rising so much? There's generally a general consensus that every 7 years that the house prices will rise, and that's how you build up equity in your property. But what do you think about this prediction that they have made in regards to this? Please share your thoughts. In avenues, alternative investments. And what am I talking about here? I'm talking about blockchain network. Conduit has announced new partnership with software firm. They have launched in July and claims it will halve the time it takes to move homes by giving all parties involved in a transaction synergies where view of the deal as it progresses. It already partners with several property and legal platforms already in the real estate market or solicitors. Today it's adding a list with Agents Hub, Power Bespoke, Rex, V Cole by Eurolink. Stephen Dawkins, Chief Relationship Officer, stated by connecting their existing CRM platforms to other parties in the property market, they deliver real efficiency to busy estate agents who have been doing better things to do. Their encrypted network enables them to securely share sensitive client data with ease, cutting time spent chasing for updates and making more time for revenue generating. What do you think about using blockchain in the estate agency environment? Blockchain is not being very understood by many, but it's becoming very apparent that blockchain is going to be the next big thing, if it's not already, in order to move things very quickly and being transparent really quick. Really is a good thing to do, and lots of estate agents are actually seeing that it is being a way of being more productive. In avenues, name and shame. Councils with the slowest search response. Wow. Home buyers are suffering huge delays in receiving responses for their search requests to councils, according to study to the local authorities. Consumer websites Compare My Move submitted freedom of information requests to over 400 councils to check how long the local land searches response took. Some 230 failed to even respond to the request within 4 weeks. Now, if you're not understanding what this is, when you're purchasing a property, you have to do searches on the local authority to find out whether these searches are for your property, if there's any flooding in that area, or is there any developments coming up? Has the property had any developments on it? Those are the kind of local searches they need to do, water research and things like that. So you have to look at what your searches are. And if there's a delay on that, it delays your purchase. It delays you moving forward with what you're doing. Of those authorities which did respond, home buyers in Plymouth appeared to see the longest delays, with an average of 36 days to complete a local land search. A year ago, the average was 11 days. Compare My Move says its possible reason for the delay is the sheer number of requests to that council, 80% more than this time in 2020. Next comes Lewis Council, taking an average of 35 days to complete a local land search, from up to 19 days in 2020. Despite only receiving an average of 261 search requests a month. Wiltshire and Salford councils both 33 days. Weyburn, Hertford on 25 days are next. And at the other end of the scale, over 60% of the councils analysed came in under 8 days average complete the land search. Impressively, 11 councils take just one working day to complete a local land search, including North Devon Council, Cardiff Council, and City of York. So give praise where it's due, and well done to those councils. Compare My Move also said it's worth highlighting Dartford Council receives over 1,500 requests a month on average and manages to maintain 24 hours average turnaround. Kudos to them. To put that in perspective, the other 10 councils with below 24-hour turnaround receive fewer than 530 requests on average each month. 7 councils, including Manchester, Braintree, Gateshead, and Marvell Hills, just fall short of 24 hours average turnaround, completing local land searches in 2 working days. So what do you think about that? Do you think they need to be turning around as much as these other councils that are doing it? You can have more details with this if you go to My Move research and find out exactly the full report on this. Under the Freedom Information Act, Compare My Move sent requests to over 400 councils. So you can actually get the report yourself. And the questions that actually asks, how many land search requests do you receive monthly for the years 2019, 2020, and 2021? Another question they ask, how many local land searches do you process each month for the years 2019 to 2021? And on average, another question, on average, how long does each local land search take to complete? This could be given days, weeks, or months. So they've asked the key questions. So when they came back, that's the response they gave back. Do you have anything that you've been waiting on searches which has delayed your purchase? I just want to say good morning to Maureen. Thank you for joining me via YouTube. It's lovely to have you here. If you have any questions or any comments, please feel free to share. In avenues, agencies to expand under former Businesswoman of the Year. A regional estate agent is planning an expansion program after undergoing a management buyout by a former Businesswoman of the Year. Results, estate agent of Rothwell, Northamptonshire, has been brought out by Anita Lovewell, a leading figure in a previous management team. Prior to entering agent, Lovell previously worked for a national warehouse and distributor operator, at which she won an annual Business Woman of the Year award in transport and logistics sector. Lovell has told local media, "I have big plans for the future of the results that we will build upon, creating a dynamic team with a strong work ethic while upholding our reputation and our trust agencies and customer service." Well done to this Woman of the Year. I really wish her luck with her endeavors. It's nice to see women at the helm. And as you know, I support women, so I'm championing her. She said, "We also have the privilege of working with some of the fantastic third-party suppliers who play a huge part in our success, from IT professionals, photographers, to local tradesmen. The firm has recently opened a second office as well in Disborough." She adds, "We are absolutely committed to Rothwell and the surrounding villages, but the time has come to spread the company's wings. We're delighted to be able to serve Didsbury and have already got our eyes on potential third branch, which will mean more staff and greater geographical coverage." Well done to her. Do you have any questions for me so far of in the news with myself? Well, look at who needs stamp duty holiday prices rise again in August. The house price index for August suggests that the rise of 2.1% in just a month, despite forecasts that the stamp duty holiday tapered off and slowed down the market. Nationwide said the average house price in the UK now stands at 248,857, after the second largest month-on-month increase in 15 years. Robert Gardner, chief economist of Nationwide, says annual house prices growth increased to 11% in August and 10.5% in July. Prices rose by 2.1% in a month-on-month terms after taking the amount of seasonal effects. House prices are now around 13% higher than when the pandemic began. The bounce back in August is surprising because it seems more likely that the tapering of the stamp duty relief in England at the end of June would have some of heat out of the market. Moreover, the monthly price increase was substantially. The strength may reflect strong demand from those buying a property price between 125,000 to 250, who are looking to take advantage of the stamp duty relief until the end of September. Though the maximum savings are substantially lower, £2,500 compared to a maximum saving of 15,000 on a property valued over £500,000 before stamp duty relief in England's taper. They state lack of supply is also likely to be a key factor behind August price increase, which estate agents report low numbers of properties are on their books. Have you found when you're going to look for your investment properties that there's hardly any stock out there? And exactly where to find stock? If you ever have those questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and we know where the local stock is and how you can actually tap into this market. In avenues, study reveals owning a home costs more than buying a home. So I repeat that. Studies reveal owning a home costs more than buying a home. Research by an estate agent's comparison site has found that the cost of a home ownership has climbed up by great margins. Get Agent looked at the cost of stamp duty on average mortgage deposit of 15% of a property value. The average valuation and survey cost on average conveyancing fees of 860 is determined the cost of buying in the current market. Based on the current average house prices, 284,000 home buyers in England are facing an average cost for buying a total for 46,366. This is 9.9 higher than just a year ago, an increase of 4,158. The Northwest has seen the largest increase in the cost of buying last year at 13.6%. Although the North at 13.4%, Yorkshire and Humber side 11.1%, and Southwest 10.5% has also seen a notable increase as well. So where's these growths coming from? If it is going to cost you more to actually buy. Get Agency then analyze the annual cost of home ownership once the initial hurdle of a purchase has been achieved based on the average mortgage repayment. The cost of council tax, the average energy bill, and the cost of water and sewage and maintenance budget is 1% of the property value. The figures show that the cost of owning a property currently sits on an average of 18,203 per year. This has increased by 1,836 since last year. So while the cost of owning a home may be lower than the initial cost of buying, it has seen a larger annual jump at 11.2%. This cost has increased the most in Yorkshire and Humber, where owning a home is now 17.3% more expensive than it was a year ago. The Northwest has also seen the largest increase of 14.8%, and in the West Midlands, 12.2%, Southwest, 12.2%, and East Midlands, 11.4%. Colbert Shaw, founder of Chief Executive Officer of Get Agency, comments, "We all know how hard it is to secure the first foot on the property ladder, with house prices booming as a result of the stamp duty holiday. This task is now even more difficult with an increase of nearly £4,200 from last year. However, what we are often failed to consider when buying a new home is the ongoing costs, which I always say you have to consider all costs. So you have to consider when you're buying a home, what is going to be my ongoing costs after purchasing this property? Those are really good things to consider." He adds, "There is an increase of cost of council tax, utilities, as well as money required to maintain the home. The sum of these factors equate to a pretty hefty cost of more than 18,000 a year on average, and on an average home. That's an increase of nearly 2,000 in last year alone." What do you think about that? Do you know how to cover the cost of your home? Have you thought about when you're doing investing to incorporate all costs that is going out there? Please let me know. In avenues, property investment, well over 700 fees for the UK largest ever HMO licensing scheme. Landlords must pay well over 700 to enter into what is now the UK largest ever HMO licensing scheme at Westminster in central London. Some £705 is payable on application for a 5-year scheme. Then £270 once the application is approved. Landlords who pay up front get both fees combined for £795. A higher fee is charged for HMO classified by Westminster Council as Section 257 buildings that has been converted into flats, where more than a third of the flats are rented out, or where the building does not comply with the 1991 building regulations or later regulations applied for building which was converted after June the 1st, 1992. A 10% fee reduction is available for those London landlords accreditation scheme. Westminster Council schemes will focus on 9,000 plus HMOs across the whole of central London borough. Smaller houses and flat shares will now require licenses if they occupy by 3 or more people forming one household. Westminster claims that a recent study found that poor housing standards are far likely to be found in the HMO sector, with the council having to make 25,341 interventions between 2016 and 2018. This new policy is a common standard across the borough, rising housing standards for and supporting residents. What is your views on the HMO licensing? Do you think that Westminster's doing the right thing by the tenants that are renting it out, or by the landlords? Please share your views. In avenues, excuse me, Investment Guides identifies buy-to-let hotspots by using algorithms. The Northeast has taken the Northwest as the best location in the UK for residential property investment. That's the view of online data property forecaster. It says Washington in time and where tops its latest investment league table. Hartlepool, Sunderland, and Newcastle also feature in the top 10, ranked 4th, 5th, and 10th respectively. Last year, leader Bootle dropped to second place on the list, and location from Midlands and east of England pushed up the top 10. Newcastle upon Lyme in Staffordshire is set to sits in 7th place, and Grimsby in Lancashire places 9th. The forecast ranks the top buy to let locations using Property Forecast unique algorithm. Investment properties across England and Wales are given a score from 1 to 10, which properties rated 10 being dubbed diamonds by the platform. Property Forecaster also ranks locations by potential yields, and that will be rental yields. Washington maintains top spot here too, with an average of 7.9% yield. Platform spokesman stated, our data has clearly showed a number of locations in the northeast are demonstrating strong promises, both in terms of future gains and the highest yields, with an average diamond properties prices in Washington, Hartlepool, and Sunderland are of between 48,000 and 53,000 pounds. The Northeast can't be beaten for value and offer accessible investments opportunities with great future potentials. In terms of the UK picture, there are still underlying strengths in the market despite a reinstatement of stamp duty and pending closure of the furlough scheme. Although there may be a slowdown in the next couple of months due to seasonality, the next 12 months will remain strong overall. The government has done a fantastic job of preventing a possible housing crash with assistance from the Bank of England reducing rates to a record low. It states our previous predictions that prices would increase in spite of the pandemic and the Brexit wouldn't cause a crash in the housing market have been borne out basically as the economy recovers from the coming months. 2022 continues to look positive for investors. Okay, Maureen says yes, should be an average response time across the board. I agree with you, Maureen. And what had caused this increase? Property, people investing in property has caused the increase of delays in getting things done by the local authorities because a lot of people wanted to beat the stamp duty. Maureen says also the licensing is good in Westminster, the first borough. Will the other boroughs follow? There's a lot of boroughs that have got HMO licensing. I just think it's one of the biggest one that is in Westminster currently. Other local authorities are doing licensing as well, and it's to protect the good landlords and the tenants as well, making sure that properties are to a good standard and safety, because safety always comes first, and that's what we have to consider when we're looking at. We may have to spend that money as investors, but then who comes first? If we've got tenants, doesn't their safety come first? So sometimes it's good to spend a little to gain a lot. So that's why I think it's a good idea to have these licensing in place. It gets rid of the rogues. And when they do inspect your property, they do thoroughly inspect your property. So that's a high standard for the tenants. And then when you've got your license, you know just to keep up that that good behavior, and you'll continue to gain a license. And don't forget, it is for 5 years. So it's a one-off cost that's spread across 5 years. And if you've done your due diligence, you should have an excess to cover your licensing fee over this period of time as well. So HMO is a really good one to get into, but also always look at all of the costs that is associated with purchasing any investment property, let alone your own property. So in avenues, government, property tax threat returns as government sets budget date. Lost in the noise of yesterday's social care announcements, that was last week, our Chancellor has named October the 27th for his next budget day. And the time that announcements about future property-related tax charges are most likely to be made. On the same day, there will be 3-year spending review, work for which has already started. And he announced, our Chancellor announced and asked the governments of all departments to identify at least 5% savings and efficiencies from day-to-day budgets for unspecified reinvestment elsewhere. In addition, it was announced yesterday that there would have been and this is last week announcement, there would have been 1.25% rise in national insurance from April 2022, and the tax on share dividends will also go up by, oh, let's have a look, where's it going? Up by 1.25%. These will become a separate tax on earnings by 2023. All those would be used to generate revenue for the government's social care reforms. At the last budget in spring and at a so-called tax day announcement shortly afterwards, it was anticipated that there may be charges to property taxation. So what do you think about all these extra taxes coming on? Do you have a prediction of what could come into play in regards to property? I want to hear your views. I'd love to hear your views on this, in fact. The two charges considering most likely earlier this year were exacting the recommendations of the Office of Budget Responsibility on capital gains tax, aligning CGT rates more closely to income tax or restricting a range and value exceptions, replacing the outdated unpopular council tax with an annual tax based on property value. Some analysts have suggested that stamp duty could be abolished as a separate charge and integrate into an annual tax as well. Last week, I should say, the Chancellor announced that October the 27th, the government would update the country on all aspects of it and so-called Build Back Better program, including housing. He also stated at the spending review later this year, I will set out how we will continue to invest in public services and drive growth while keeping public finances on a sustainable path. In avenues, what do you think about the budget? Do you think that, there's things in the budget that you can foresee that you might want to change? I really would like to hear someone's opinion on this. What do you think about the budget? Any questions on any comments, please feel free to share it and come in and drop in and say good morning as well. In avenues, cities are back, they say. Rental growth best for years, thanks to city renovations and doing a lot within the city space. The UK rental market has revved up amidst a sharp rise in demand of city living, driving the highest rate growth outside of London for over a decade. It says the demand for major cities and amid limited supply, rents are tracking at this now 5% higher year on year across the country, excluding London, according to Zoopla. Monthly rents are averaged at £790, up from £752 a year ago. This equates to renters paying an average increase of £456 per year. However, it insists that this is not a story of rapidly declining affordability. The Government Office National Statistics recently reported that the average earnings of those employed are rising faster than rents, with an 8.8% rise in total year on year in June. At a city level in Manchester, Reading, Leeds have moved from negative positive rental growth territory, while Wigan and Mansfield are leading the pack of accelerating rental growth with a double-digit growth of 10.5% and 10% respectively. While the rental market is seasonal, with July and August proving busier historically, current activity levels are unusually higher as well. This probably has got to do with student lets. So when you're renting out these kind of months, students normally return home. So the student lets do drop at this time in between July and August. They said that in August, the stock of property available to rent was around a third below where they would typically be at this time of year. The recent surge in renters has ultimately eroded supply, which has already been declined. Zupa comments the rental data illustrates how city life is resuming, with sharp increase in demands in central cities. The stronger levels of rental demand seen across the UK during August will moderate in line with the seasonal trends as well. So, what do you think about it? Think about that? Do you think renters are losing, gaining? Is it increasing? Well, here's another report. It says renters are big losers from the soaring house prices, mortgage boss said. Celebration among landlords and homeowners over the last record house price figure masks growing disadvantages for renters, claims a mortgage service boss. Despite the traditional summer market slowdown being back of a continuing pandemic, UK house prices hit a new high record of 262,954 during August, according to new Halifax House Index prices. However, Nigel, chief executive of Way Home, says while these figures may be good news for both developers and sellers, this constant upward spiral of house prices is bad news for millions of reluctant renters who are increasingly being priced out of home ownership in their own area. In addition, the UK renters aren't helped by hugely unfair mortgage lending rules. Despite many have sizable deposits, significant numbers are still falling short of the strict lending criteria required to buy a home that works for them. As we head towards the end of 2021, we need to find innovative ways to help more people to get onto the ladder. I totally agree with that. What do you think? Do you think we need to, there needs to be more assistance to help people get onto the ladder? Because sometimes it's not even a deposit. It is the strict rules from lenders as well that prevents people from being able to get on a ladder because the criteria, they're just not hitting the criteria. But they could have been paying rent for years. And if they had the opportunity to get on a property ladder, they had a deposit, then, it will make more financial sense. But they're being blocked by a lot of lenders because they don't fit the criteria. What is your views on this? And how do you feel about that? In avenues, eviction notice periods return to normal next month. It's official. The government has set in motion a parliamentary procedure, meaning the notice periods for evictions in England returns to normal from October the 1st. Therefore, landlords giving notice to evict via either Section 21 or Section 8 notice will need to give 2 months notice. It is no longer be the 6 months period required under coronavirus legislation, which will remain in force until October the 1st. But a statement from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government says, however, we intend to retain the power to implement these measures again in case that the public health situation worsens. These measures are required again. This is a nod to concern over possible worsening of COVID infections over the winter. Emergency coronavirus legislation affecting many aspects of the eviction process has been enforced with minor modifications since spring 2020. But now the MHCLG says, while these measures are appreciated at the height of the pandemic, these restrictions could only ever be temporary. Returning notice periods to their pre-COVID lengths from 1st of October would allow landlords to repossess their properties where necessary. Do you think it's a welcome relief that we're being able to have our eviction periods back to normal? What do you think? Share your comments. And if you're on a replay, please tap #replay. Lastly, as well, commercial landlords, new rental homes to replace some existing shop cities. One of the country's largest commercial and retail landlords, Capital and Regional, is to expand the current program of building residential homes on existing shopping centres. In a trading statement to shareholders, the company, which specializes in town retail centres, says rental homes are already set to be located or within the Capital Regional's existing shopping malls at Walthamstow in London, unlocking further value from the portfolio through a mix of use in other key initiatives where we had made, they stated, good progress with the planning consent for their Walthamstow residential project. They stated that their confidence for potential to unlock further value from high street destinations is on the horizon. What do you think about changing use of commercial properties into residential properties? Do you think that's a good move? I've always believed that any move into investing and utilizing space around you is always a good investment, and a commercial conversion is always a good one as well. Not only lucrative, but it's also not having a desolate high street, because when you've got a desolate high street, it just seems like there's nothing there, and people want to leave that area because it doesn't look or bodes well. But with them converting it, it really does, I think, brings up the value of the street. So what do you think about that? So that's the end of our In the News with myself, Savvy Sapphire. I look forward to sharing more In the News with you next week. If you've got any comments or would like to share your opinions or even join me on the show, I'll be happy to have you here. Please let me know, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a lovely day and have a lovely week. Speak to you soon.